Hey guys, it's Ash and welcome back to the library. We're going over what I read in the month of June, which was kind of like half reading for me. The two books that I read actually started in university years ago, but they were anthology collections of different stories, so I read some of the stories and not all of them. And I finished putting together my library, which you can only see part of, but I did it. No more books. Okay, a few more books are on the floor, but not that many. So I realized I hadn't read some of the stories in these books, and I was tired of them laying around being half-read, so my goal is to finish all the half-read books, which are more than I'd like to admit. But anyway, let's jump into it. Book number 1, The Diary of a Madman and Other Stories by Nikolai Gogol. So this, again, all of the books, or the two books I'm talking about, are collections of short stories. So this includes The Diary of a Madman, it includes The Nose, it includes The Carriage, The Overcoat, and Taras Bulba, all short stories by Nikolai Gogol. And this kind of goes into one of the books we talked about for what I read in the month of May, which was The Namesake, and I introduced you guys to Nikolai Gogol if you weren't already familiar with him. But he was a Russian, he was Ukrainian, but he was a Russian absurdist writer, and some of his best stuff is included in this. We talked about The Overcoat some last video because it featured so heavily within The Namesake by Jean-Paul Lahiri. And The Overcoat is widely considered his best work. I have a personal fondness for The Nose, because it is just absolutely wild. But yeah, I started this particular book here in my Russian literature course that I took in conjunction with actually learning to speak Russian. Had the same professor, so I got a lot out of it. These are, all English translations of it, and they're very good translations actually. And this edition has a neat introduction and afterword, kind of giving you more about Gogol himself and his style, and which is always kind of neat, always kind of nice. Again, my favorites of this are The Overcoat and The Nose, because The Nose is absolutely ridiculous. It's just so funny. And The Overcoat is also absurd, as most of this is absurdism. But it's also very hauntingly real, and it sticks with you long after you finish it. And for university, we read The Nose and The Overcoat and The Diary of a Madman, which is a stream of conscious diary written by somebody losing their mind. So also rather interesting. The Carriage and Taras Bulba are what I just finished reading. The Carriage, another absurdist piece. It didn't really stick with me as much as the other ones. And Taras Bulba is the oddity in this, because it's actually not absurdism, it's realistic. It's a kind of historical romance of the Cossacks. It was fine. It didn't really hit me any, it just was. It's also one of the earliest published stories in here. That one was 1835, the latest being The Overcoat in 1842. So yeah, it's just a decent little collection of Gogol's work, and it really does give you a good overview of his absurdist style and what made him such a prominent writer, Russian writer. I enjoyed finally being able to finish it. This is an excellent edition. Of course, all copies of the books will be linked below. I recommend reading Gogol just because I personally enjoy a bit of absurdist, the absurdist writers, because it just, even take The Nose, which I'm not going to tell you anything about because it's ridiculous and I want you to experience that for yourself. That was my cat. Anywho. But I will say that the fact that it's absolutely insane doesn't deter the fact that it also is a huge commentary on Russian social structure at the time. And the same thing goes with The Overcoat. They're heavily criticizing the culture that Gogol was around, while still being absolutely ridiculous, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, that's kind of all I really have to say about it. It's just a collection of neat short stories by a very interesting author. So I'm glad I finally was able to finish it and put it behind me. Let's see, right here next to Alexander Pushkin, which I will probably get to at some point or another. Anyway, next book. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Pearl, and Sir Orfeo, the editions done by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, I will say, I will stick by this no matter what. Tolkien's translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is the best one out there. Okay, I refuse to take, I'm not gonna take that back. It is true. No. I've had to read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I don't even know how many times this, I had to read it a lot for college. And professors, my first professor I had assign it to me is the one who I got the copy of this book for his class. And after that, every time somebody is like, here, I want you to read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and they give me just a rough copy of it, I just refuse. I'm like, I would rather read this one. This one's so much better. So, right off the bat, I'm telling you that. Tolkien's edition of these poems is, I don't know, he just really infused his love of medieval literature and his fantastical mindset, and it just absolutely captures the romance, the beautiful landscapes, the mysticism and folklore and all of that. He just really ties it in to the story in a beautiful, beautiful way. So that's probably my biggest reasons. Of course, yeah, this is medieval literature. More specific, it is medieval poetry. So I understand many of you are like, okay, I'm done here. If the Russian literature didn't get you, then you're like, no, I absolutely do not want medieval literature. But I would seriously recommend Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, regardless of your feelings about medieval poetry, because it is really, it's easy to understand, easy to read, especially this translation, which as you see has a lot of markings in it. Because it really embodies so many different aspects of medieval literature. It's one of the most well-known King Arthur stories, and so it has, you know, romance, and it has grand adventures, and paganism, and, you know, Celtic folklore, and just, you name it, it's in there. And so it makes for a really engaging read. It's not, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a medieval poem, because oh boy, I have read some that feel like medieval poetry. But no, I really actually genuinely enjoy this one. I've written papers on it. I keep rereading it just because it's so good. And this translation is absolutely the best of it, because like I said, Tolkien really, his word choice and his interpretation of it really shows the beauty of this story. Now, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is an anonymous piece. We don't know who the author is, and there's only one manuscript preserving it. And Pearl, the second poem included in this book, also is on that manuscript, so it's believed that they were written by the same author. Now, Pearl is the one that I hadn't read. We read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and Sir Orfeo for that college class. It was a fantasy literature class, in case you're wondering. And we didn't read Pearl for it, so Pearl's the one that I just read. And I didn't enjoy it as much. Didn't really stick with me as much. It's believed to be an elegy for the poet's dead daughter, but it just, I don't know, there's a lot of heavy or heavier Christian imagery in it, and it's drawing on and on. Some of it is not confusing, but weird. I don't know. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't like it nearly as much as the other two. So I'm just kind of going to gloss over that, even though it's the one that I just read. So I'm going to move on to Sir Orfeo, which is another anonymous poem. Surprise, surprise. Most medieval literature is kind of anonymous. And it's a retelling of Orpheus as a king who is rescuing his wife from a fairy king. So it's an odd blending of like Greek myth and Celtic myth and then folklore, and it's got it's got a really cool vibe to it. It's very airy and dreamlike, and the imagery in it is very fairy world. And I don't know, I enjoyed this one quite a bit when I read it because it just, I don't know, it's a very visual poem, which is, some poems aim for that, some don't, but this one really, along with telling its story, it really captures you and you really see the poem unfolding before you, which is very lovely. And I'm not sure, I haven't read the original piece, and you know, I've only read this translation of it, and I think Tolkien's word choice kind of helped capture that dreamy aspect of it. But yeah, so I really enjoyed it. So this is an excellent book to have in general, especially if you have any interest in medieval literature or fantasy or Tolkien or anything. I really, this is a great addition because I swear up and down Tolkien's rendition of Sir Gawain the Green Knight, best out there. I refuse to recant that statement. So yeah, these are the 2 books that I read for this month. I suppose that's half reading, kind of cheating, but I'm only taking 1 class because this is my final semester and then I'm done with college, which is awesome. But the class I'm taking is a history class, so I'm not doing any actual reading of books and I've been busy. So I will have more for the month of July coming out soon. And I'm really excited because I'm starting to do some with book reviews and book recommendations and that sort of thing that are not ancient medieval literature, but are instead done by indie authors who are alive and well and continuing to write books. So look out for some of those. They're probably going to have their own individual videos just because I really want to not lump them in with anonymous medieval poets and Russian literature and everything else. They deserve their own spiel. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope some of this is interesting and coherent. I know I kind of glossed over a lot of it because they are just collections of short stories and short of sitting down and analyzing the poems or the stories themselves. It was just kind of, these are good and I recommend it, and I'm glad that finally, after oh so much time, they can both find their way onto my shelf. I gotta make room for him. Anyway, again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you want to see some of the upcoming cool stuff I'm doing, then subscribe and ring the notification bell so you know when I actually upload it. And I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.